The question of legislative competence is just one aspect of the issue which hinges on separation of powers. But I go a step further, which is to say that when the petitions raise the question of change in heteronormative attitudes, does the society have a right of agency to participate in these proceedings or not, at least in this particular issue or not? Because this is not a question of separation of territories between different organs of the state, but it fundamentally hinges on the right or the agency of the society to participate in this particular discussion. And that is the central problem when these kind of issues and subjects are taken up by the court of law, as opposed to leaving it for legislative prerogative to apply its mind. Point number two, during the course of these proceedings of the last 2 weeks, quite a few times I've heard the submission being made that it's a liberal democracy, it's a liberal document, so on and so forth. Does it mean that social conservatism has absolutely no place within the meaning of the Constitution? Does it mean that the society does not have the right to draw a few red lines to basically say thus far and no further? That is the central question. The rest of the society has absolutely no say as far as this institution is concerned. This, I'm sorry to say, fundamentally demeans the institution of marriage and takes away its social character. So these are the meta questions that I think which arise for consideration before this honorable court when these kind of petitions are filed. I'm sorry to say this, and let me try and perhaps tone down the rigor of my submission to the extent of saying, I believe that they have a cause. I just don't believe they have a case. Circulation for public opinion. If I may say so, and I say this with the deepest of respect and the greatest of humility that I can command at this point, that the judicial mechanism cannot be a substitute to any of these steps, especially when it comes to such a serious issue. And I draw from Hindu law here that the purpose of marriage or the object of dampatya is a child, is procreation. Now, secondly, there are only 3 places.
I think we perhaps are aware of how to read these judgments.
Please.
We don't need to be taught.
No, Millets, I'm sorry. I understand. I'm just placing reliance on this. I'm just making
Yes, we understand that these are
Please.
contexts.
Please.
Whether they're analogies or not is up to us.
My lords, please, Millets. I'm grateful. Parliamentary procedures issued by the Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs in July 2019, which contains a specific chapter 9, titled Legislation. My apologies for the speed. I'm just trying to keep up with time here. Please. The said chapter spells out in great detail that I'm not making that submission at all. But these are certain Maslow's needs which have to be completed first and which have to be addressed first before we get to the next step. That's all I have to submit. I'm so grateful for the kind, please, great, deeply obliged.